Hi there. I want to talk today about finding patterns in the readings that you do with the cards. I think for me personally, that's just the most interesting and perhaps the most insightful part of reading the cards because generally speaking, with some practice and experience, you can see some underlying patterns to every reading, and that's very cool stuff. So I did this reading with a couple, and it was about a lot of issues in their life and so on and so forth. So what I did before the reading, I picked what I call a preview card. Preview cards are just to get some information about the reading, maybe about these people, not to psych anything out really, but just information, which is what cards are really about. And so I picked, for the man, I picked the card called Oppression. There, you could see oppression. And for her, I picked the card called the Feeler, Child of Cups. Now, these are really remarkably different qualities. The oppression signifies a person who might be quite disciplined or really oppress, suppress, repress, and would like some freedom in his life, perhaps. Or may need some. You don't quite know, okay? So you just kind of store that in the back of your mind. And then the Child of Cups is a person who's much more, this is for the woman in the relationship, much more open emotionally, much more expressive of feelings, much freer that way. So these are quite contrasting cards, and frankly speaking, many times the man, generally speaking, of course, the man might have this quality of more disciplined structure and wanting more freedom than the female in a relationship, the feeler, which is all about feelings, emotional authenticity, and honesty and communication, all that good stuff. So, okay, now, when I talked to them on Skype, actually as a Skype reading, we were talking generally about what the reading was about, and they had mentioned that they had also picked a card about themselves, their card, and it was the Harmony card, which is the Eight of Wands in Voyager Tarot. This is all Voyager Tarot, of course, and this is a really great relationship quality here, the ability to really communicate, but communicate in a variety of different ways. You see, there's different kinds of musical instruments, from a drum and a trumpet to a violin and a harp. So it's got real diversity in their communication. And really, there's quite this bridge in the middle, which indicates that although there might be differences, which could be indicated by the oppression and feeler card, that they have an ability to somehow find middle ground, some middle ground, and really harmonize. So that's all very interesting. Now I'm going to be really short about this reading. There were other cards in the reading and other issues, but the cards that stood out for me that really indicated a pattern, and there weren't a lot of cards that were picked, maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 cards or a dozen cards, something like that. But the following cards really stood out, and I saw this pattern, which I thought was very cool. And anyway, I asked the gentleman about him. I wanted him to pick his own card, and he picked the Four of Wands, which is called Aspiration in Voyager. But, I might have just easily have called it Freedom, hence because of the Statue of Liberty that's in there. Now, which is really interesting in light of the fact that this Four of Wands is right next to the Five of Wands, the oppression kind of in jail card, and Aspiration, freedom, is wanting to get out of that situation. So it was a little red flag there for me. My antenna was up, like, it may be that this man really wants a little bit more freedom in the relationship, or to get out of the relationship, or something like that. And frankly, I don't try and read too much specifically into these cards until we really get into it with conversation feedback. My readings are conversational. They're interactive. It's not me knowing what the heck's going on with them, really. But the cards do give us these wonderful indications. So he picked that card, Freedom Aspiration. And then I had her pick her card, and it was the Balance card in Voyager, which in classic tarot is Justice, the Sword of Justice. It's a woman, perfect. It's a woman who's very, very emotionally balanced, mentally balanced, a great quality to have in any relationship, that's for sure. The downside of this card can be judgment. It's can be a great judgment card, but can also represent being very judgmental, which would be the red flag, the shadow side of this card. But generally speaking, it's a super great card in the reading here. So. That those two cards were kind of interesting. On the one hand, the Balance card is a person who's pretty squared away and everything's kind of okay, whereas the other card, the Man's card, Aspiration, is he wants something more, something different that's not quite there. He's aspiring here, whereas the Balance card is generally speaking a person who's pretty okay with the way things are. So again, kind of my antenna go up. I said, I wonder what that's all about. And, file all of this away, of course. So we go on with it, and there's other cards in the reading, of course. And then at some point, right, as I'm talking here, I'm trying to find a certain card that I left out. Voyager, the backside of the card, by the way, is DNA. This is the genetic chromosome that makes us us. It's got 10 points, which I think is spectacular, indicating that we're born at 10. Top, 10. And then what happens through life is we get kind of reduced by life or dismissed by life or dissed by life. Maybe I didn't do so well in PE, so now I'm down to a 9. Maybe I talked back to authority figures. Now I'm down to an 8, and, stuff like that. Okay, so the point is that through life a lot of times we get put down and we feel we're not as perfect as we were naturally born to be. Really. And the whole idea of the DNA on the backside of Voyager is to, as I look for this card here that I'm looking for, is to remember, and what Einstein said, not Einstein, excuse me, I found the card, now I'm okay. What Aristotle, no, it was Plato. There you go. God, finally. I just got out of the swimming pool. My eyes, I'm looking at my eyes in the screen, and they're like chlorinated somehow, but that's okay. Anyway, got a little bit soggy brain. But it was Plato. Plato said the path of enlightenment is not so much new stuff. It's about anamnesia. Anamnesia. Anamnesia, like, how do you spell that even? Anyway, it's the opposite of forgetting. It's remembering. And it's remembering that we are born, in this case, 10s. We are born perfect. And the reminder is to help us remember this 10 on the back of the card. Remember, come on. We're okay, and probably even better than okay. And of course, the tarot is mythic. It's not that, for example, you're just intuitive. You are the priestess intuitive. It's not that you're just an emperor, and or excuse me, you're not just successful in business, you're the emperor in business. It's not like you just like to stay home alone, for example. You're the hermit. It's not like you just like to go places and travel. You're the charioteer. In other words, the tarot gives us this mythic kind of identity. And for those of us who need a little bit more self-esteem, a little more self-empowerment, the tarot is a great, great tool for that. Okay, so anyway, what we're seeing with these cards was a certain kind of symmetry or asymmetry in a way. We're seeing a kind of a classic male-female polarity in the cards. Particularly one of the cards is the Four of Wands, Aspiration, is a number 4, which in the tarot is associated with the archetype of the Emperor, number 4. And in Voyager Tarot, all minor cards through their numbers are related to the major archetypes by the same number. Makes Voyager very unique, holistic psychology, if you will. In any event, the Balance card was, again, a woman. So we have this male-female deal going on here. So then, okay, then at some other point I asked another question, and I just do Q&A readings. I don't do layouts. I think they're a little bit stilted, stultified, dull, boring, and fixed and deadening for me. They're okay, but okay. Anyway, let's not get into that. All right. So I've asked the man his next card. I can't remember what the question was exactly, but he picked another 4 card. The 4 of Worlds, which would be Pentacles and Classic Tarot. Another 4 Emperor card, really masculine card. I mean, if you look at the kind of the male genital symbols here. I mean, here's, well, you can see it for yourself anyway. So this is a very active, masculine, it's a testosterone card, frankly, okay? Very, very male, very emperor. So we got these 2 male cards for him. Woo, wow. Pretty interesting. Okay. And then, so, you know, I asked the woman her card in contradistinction to that, and the card she picked was the Star. Now, the Star is a Kuan Yin type of moon goddess, star goddess figure in Voyager, an Asian symbol, Asian goddess, and a woman. She's a woman, once again, but a very lofty woman, a way shower, a woman who's of service in the world with love and compassion and wisdom, is sharing her radiance with the world. So it's very beautiful, Zoftic, spiritually inclined female, which would certainly go along with the balance quality, which in classic Greece, actually, the justice woman or symbol, Themis, was actually a woman. The judge in Greece was not a guy. It was females. Very interesting. Anyway, so here's 2 incredible female archetypes, whereas he has 2 really strong Emperor number 4 cards. And I go like, wow. What I loved about this relationship part of the reading was that they do represent a classic lovers archetype. And in Voyager, this is the kiss, the embrace by Brancusi, masculine, feminine coming together, the whole chakra embracing of each other here. And it's, you know, so and this is a perfect archetypal explanation of the relationship. The classic masculine archetype, the Emperor, the classic female, balanced, spiritual woman, Star, and embracing each other, coming together, all of that harmony card that they initially started out with. And I just thought this is a most, and I spent a lot of time talking to them about the archetypalness of their relationship. And so when they get into arguments and conflicts, and by the way, he can be a pretty wild guy, I found out, you know, in the reading, this commencement card. And she's more of a stay-at-home woman, not quite as adventurous as he is, but anyway. But they do get into it occasionally, shouting matches, screaming, hey, come on. It happens. And I said, you know, the important thing to remember is that you guys are playing out an old mythic archetypal role of man vis-a-vis woman. And this is an ancient story. And this is nothing really new here. And to remember when they were going at it with each other, to remember the archetypalness of their relationship and of the story that they're living. And what's so interesting, which I really loved about this reading, not only seeing this pattern so clear, you can't make this stuff up, you know, that's the beauty of the cards. You just can't make it up, and cards don't lie, apparently. After 30 years, I can attest to that. That when they get into it with each other, to remember they're playing out that old story. And I found out that they are actually creating a growth center, and a lot of it will be about relationships, and they will be the facilitators. Now, and they were a little bit concerned about it because, I mean, they're not perfect in their relationship, you know, come on. But the beauty of their relationship is their authenticity. They're honest, they're truthful, and they're growing, they're evolving. Because I've been to some relationship workshop seminars, and the facilitator, I have my intuitive doubts about their relationship gifts and abilities. Sometimes we teach what we need to learn. That's always true. But I just found that this was an incredible couple for showing firsthand through their own authenticity of the archetypal male-female coming together. Which, by the way, I'm not going to show you even too much more, but with the Lover's card, each one of them had their own. He had his own feminine aspects in his reading. He had some priestess cards, and she had some masculine cards. So they also pretty well balanced within themselves. And the Lovers is really all about self-integration, self-love, the yin, the yang, the male, the female coming together in oneself, and then out of that being able to create a whole relationship. But that doesn't mean that the relationship's easy. Uh, there are complications. It's complicated. There can be contradictions. There can be conflicts. There can be ambiguities. And great relationships, because none of them are perfect and whole and, hunky-dory all the time. Uh, Great relationships, however, have the ability to communicate through the conflicts and to be able to hold to both sides, to contain, to be the container for the ambiguities, to be together, but not at all times be together. I mean, in the Lover's card in Voyager, we have the rose, and the rose is broken. Even the characters, the lovers, are split. So it's not like we're completely harmonized at all points, but that's part of living, and that's part of healing, and that's part of growing, and it's human, it's life. And I love that great authenticity that they have to them. And so at the end of the relationship, well, it was not quite the end, but I did ask, so what so where is this relationship going? Where is this growth center going? And I had them each pick an outcome card. Now, I love to do this. I just, like, after we've been through the whole discussion about that, like, so where is this going? And the card that he picked was love. How will you believe that? The Three of Cups, the giving of love, the receiving of love, fabulous, fabulous. Hey, you can't do better than love, right? And I also love the fact that it's a male giving of love and the female receiving of love symbolically. And the Siamese fighting fish. Like, oh my God. It's again showing that loving relationships can have their stuff and get into it and fight with each other on occasion. That's part of living. It's part of loving. That was so perfect. And then she picked a card, and the card that she got was trust. The Six of Wands, 6 candles here. Everybody embracing, hands to hands, heart to heart, the whole bit. And it's a 6, which goes back to the tarot, the number 6 Lovers archetype. So, I mean, talk about it, a magnificent relationship card and quality. Like, wow. So put those two together, and I'd say, come on, do not worry about your fights, etc., etc. You're good to go. There will still continue to be your stuff. It'll come up. But I love these relationship cards. But this wasn't the reading wasn't just all about that. It had other aspects of their life into it. But these cards really just were shouting to me about their relationship stuff. And I picked out of all the cards, these cards to, talk about the pattern of their nature, of their archetypal, mythic love life, an old story, which was. So then I went to, where's this card here? I went to the my new deck called the Sustain Yourself cards, which are green wisdom cards, 101 nature cards about our nature, our primordial psychology, of who we are in terms of the elements, in terms of minerals and plants and animals and all this kind of stuff, nature, and to reconnect with nature and to see our own nature. And using nature as a model for our own sustainable life. And so anyway, I had them pick a card, each one, on their nature and how the two aspects of their nature were a short form of an ecological system. And of course, in nature, everything works together, is interdependent, and is balanced. So I wanted to know about that. That'd be a groovy question. So let's see, which card did he pick? Oh, yeah. I'll start with her. She picked the Ancestor. Now, this is a human card in the Sustain Yourself cards deck. there are the human element, which is kind of the wild humans, the ancestor. And to me, this immediately spoke to the old story of male-female lovers that they were playing out throughout the ages and even throughout all of life. I mean, you go to the sun and the moon, or to fire and water, or to yin yang, or to night and day, or breath in, breath out. I mean, it's all yin yang. It's all polarity. I mean, the North Pole, the South Pole. I mean, it's classic. So this represents how they're playing out this ancient story of masculine feminine coming through. And maybe actually, if you believe in past lives and all that, they've been together before doing this kind of thing. Okay, I thought that was pretty interesting. So then he picked his card, and a wild card, and it's called Surprise. I mean, this is the wild card in the deck, in the sustain deck, the wild card. And this is like new and novel. This is the unpredictable, the uncertain, the unseen, that which we do not know. And it's so different from the ancestor. The ancestor is like, oh, we've been through this story before. But this is the new story. And it's like what's so cool about this is that on the one hand, they're living the old story, but on the other hand, they're evolving. They're creating a new story, a 21st century story of love and lovers. And for me, for them to be teachers of relationships, I just think that is spectacular. For them to be totally in touch personally and professionally and academically and all of that, to know about archetypes and the balancing, the polarities, and the alchemy of the male-female, and at the same time, in their authenticity and in their creativity and their co-creativity of collaborating in this growth center, growing themselves and creating new models of new relationship, new models of a new relationship. And I was just so I was just tickled. I was just so pleased by this reading. And not only for them, I thought they loved it. They got a lot out of it, I'm sure. But I did too, And when you do a reading for somebody else, it's for yourself. And it just reminded me of a lot of my stuff and possibilities and opportunities. But I think hopefully this is good insight for you in your love life, in your relationship life, and about your communication. And also for those of you who are like to look at the tarot cards and consult them, to give you a little insight into how you look for patterns. With the underlying patterns is really the archetypal patterns, the universal patterns, the primordial patterns, I think are sometimes the most fascinating. And if we're aware of that, then we can really heal some of these kinds of what we think are very in the now ego situations, when in fact they're much more transcendent than that. They are archetypal. And once you know the archetypalness of it, like the Jungian archetypal psychology, you can really heal a lot through that kind of awareness. So, hey, thank you. Thank you for watching this. I'll be back. I just love this kind of stuff. Okay, take care. Keep picking those cards. A card a day keeps the shrink away. Bye.